All right, good afternoon. Just before 12:15, and speaking of the tropics, Hurricane Grace, continues to strengthen this afternoon. You can see how far south it is, though. It's way on down here in the southwestern Gulf of Mexico, heading to Mexico. Mexico City is about right there, and winds were at 85 miles an hour as of 10 a.m. Looks like it's probably going to intensify a little bit more, and notice these bursts of showers and storms, the clouds bubbling up here, just showing that it is in a pretty good environment to continue to strengthen, and it's still moving at a pretty good rate, west at 14. So it will continue to dive into parts of Mexico later tonight. They do have it forecasted to become a Cat 2, and then there's making landfall, becoming pretty close over Mexico City there by tonight and tomorrow morning, producing some heavy rainfall. Interesting about Grace is that it actually looks like it's going to get all the way to the Pacific, at least the moisture associated with it, and then could reorganize back into a tropical system. If it loses the center of circulation, then they would rename it. I believe the M storm is where they're at in the Pacific, and it would be Marty. So it'll be interesting to see if Grace eventually becomes Marty as it makes its way into the Pacific. Either way, not an issue for us. Here's something you don't see every day. Tropical storm watches and hurricane watches just outside of New York City, all the way up to Rhode Island and heading up towards the Cape there in Massachusetts. So they've got an incoming system that's going to get there by Sunday, and it's going to be this one right here. Tropical storm Henri. It is now making its northwest turn, slowing down a bit. Still not the most organized, but it's trying to come together, and they do still have it forecasted to become a hurricane before making landfall anywhere from Long Island through the Hamptons, up through Connecticut, Rhode Island here, and there's Boston in the cone of uncertainty. But the big problem with this storm is probably going to be the motion and how it slows down. So yeah, it could be a Cat 1 or a strong tropical storm making landfall Sunday afternoon into Sunday evening, but then the thing just comes to a stall almost, and that means persistent onshore flow. And whenever you have onshore flow building up for over a day, you know how that goes. Think Hurricane Isaac around here. It can just make the storm surge that much more worse. So a hurricane up here hasn't happened, a direct landfall in that area since Hurricane Bob, 1991. And looking at the return period, how on average they see, how often they see hurricanes up here, nearly 20 years. So they are overdue for a hurricane strike when you look at the averages. Now, of course, when you look at our averages, we're much more frequent with our hurricane impacts. On average, we have about 7 to 8 hurricane making landfall every 7 to 8 years. And of course, when you look at major hurricanes, less frequent. We went from 2005 to 2020 without a landfall, but of course Zeta was a Cat 3. So on average, our return period for a major hurricane is about every 20 years or so.